All right, good morning. It is the Rise and Grind Morning Show. It's Wednesday, June 18th, and we're going to get into it today. First and foremost, we're going to be talking about training camp tickets, training camp giveaway. We do it every year. We give about 100-plus tickets away to training camp. So we're going to discuss that and what you have to do to get your opportunity, get your shot at winning some training camp tickets. It's free. It's free to enter, but there's also another way to do it, and we'll talk about that here in just a moment. Aiden Hutchinson, his contract likely hangs in the balance right now, and does he win from a delayed contract? Does he benefit from a delayed contract? We're going to talk about that, and then it's all Lions today. So after we get through the first part, it's all Lions all day today on Wednesday. We'll be right back here in just a few moments. Good morning, everybody.
Adam Schefter at ESPN says there's 275,000 people.
Well, that was some party in downtown Detroit. 775,000 people shattering the NFL draft attendance record.
This is the future.
All grit.
Evolution. This is the future.
All grit.
Evolution.
All grit.
Riley, good morning, man. What's happening?
Good morning. Will,
Let me switch into the other one here. There we go.
There we go.
What's happening, man?
Hey, man, it's Wednesday. It's just days go by so damn quick these days for me, and I'm sure they do for everybody. So yeah, here we are. It's Wednesday. No better place to be than right here, rocked on Detroit Lions.
Yeah, it's kind of weird when you change the schedule, what happens. So, yeah. Yep, that's what happens. You forget what day it is. Anyway, I'm putting a message into the chat because I said that we were going to talk about training camp tickets. Now, if you've been following this channel for a long time, which it's only been 21 months, but been around for a little bit longer than that, the thing that I do every training camp, I started it 2 training camps ago, so this will be the third, is I give away at least 100 tickets. At least 100 tickets. And we give them out in groups of 2 or 4. And we used to do some sponsoring things, on Facebook and Twitter really wasn't around for me back then, but Facebook, we were pumping a lot of things, like trying to get people to do certain things to win the tickets. This year, I'll probably switch over to Twitter a little bit and do some sort of a giveaway, but the most important thing is you need to now be a member of the channel, at least the bottom tier, to have the best chance at winning. So there's no purchase necessary, but I'm going to reserve a large amount of the tickets for the members. It's hard to get tickets, so not everybody's going to be able to get tickets to training camp. It happens every year. They give away, or they allow, I think, up to 15,000 fans to go each practice, and you can forget about going to the joint practices if they're in Allen Park, because those tickets are gone like immediately. Now, being a loyal Lions member, we get a few, 10 seats. You get at least 10 tickets, right? But those are usually reserved for us. And if we have extras, of course, we'll be more than happy to do something with them. But it's hard to have extras. Let's just put it that way. Giveaway between now and training camp is we're going to be giving away, and it'll be up for raffle too. rocked on jersey. So if you want a rocked on jersey to support it, obviously be there at training camp, rocking it. It'll be available for you in your size, and we'll have it custom made. It takes a few weeks to get a custom made one done. I was thinking about ordering just a bunch, but it doesn't make sense to do that. So
it's a good looking jersey.
Yeah, and you can do it in any color. You don't have to get it in black. I'm actually going to order a blue one for me. I'd rather have a blue one most of the time. Because in the summer, man, at training camp, it's going to be like, 85, 90 degrees out there. And, black jersey, like, come on. That's just not fun.
Roasting out there a little bit.
Absolutely. So, anyway, we're going to do the Rocked On jersey giveaway. Training camp giveaway will be starting probably right around July 16. I think is July 15, July 16. I think that's when tickets are available, July 15 or 16. So trying to give away 100 tickets in less than a week is going to be tough. I'm surprised that they didn't open up the tickets earlier, right? To be able to give them away or do something with them, to at least be able to plan that you can go. Like, I always got a dog on the Lions a little bit, Riley, at least a little bit. But you saw the release yesterday, right? It was my anniversary last night, so I was not jumping on doing anything. There was
happy anniversary to you and Megan, by the way, on that note.
Thank you, man. It's 7 years now, but we've known each other for 37 years.
There you go. Love it. Yeah, I don't know if I did see the release here, and if I'm not mistaken, your birthday is coming up here at the end of the month, or next
July.
month, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So it's always during training camp, right? Isn't that a Will Rock ritual? It's celebrate the birthday, go down to training camp at Allen Park?
Forever. It's usually been that way, but now that they're starting a week early, it's not going to be that way because for many years, you can go back and look, for many years it was July 29 was the loyalty day. It always somehow ended up on that day was a Sunday. Or a Saturday or a Monday. It always seemed to somehow end up on my birthday, or at least every third, fourth, however the calendar rolls. But yeah, so bringing my kids, man, bringing my kids when training camp has been open at Allen Park. I mean, going back to probably 2010, 2009.
Mm-hmm.
That's how long I've been doing training camp.
That's awesome.
At least at Allen Park. We went to a few at, I think it was up in Saginaw is where it was before that. I can't remember, but many, many, many moons ago. So July 26th is the first day that we're back together again. It is the Lions Loyal Members Only Day. I don't even know what day July 26th is. You got a calendar in front of you?
I can pull it up, but Brandy Coffee seems to always have a good feel for things. She says 38 days until we were back together. So she's got a pretty good feel for, one of these, but who's counting anyway? But yeah, that's a Saturday, July 26th.
That's another significant day for my family, which I won't talk about on air, but so July 26th is the first day for Lions Loyal members, any Lions fans, to go to training camp. July 28th is general public, so that'll be on a Monday. And then July 29th on my birthday, yes, I will accept gifts, is general public again. So I will definitely be there probably at all days. That's the goal. Still waiting on credential email. Hopefully we get it this year. August 3rd is general public. August 4th is going to be a night practice. Those are the best ones, man. Being there at night.
Yeah.
They're so rare. But that'll be a Lions Loyal member. I'll at least be at all those. And what's cool this year is they're doing at least 3 loyalty member days. So the August 13th is the next one.
Mm-hmm.
Then we have the private invitation only practice on August 11th. I have a feeling I'll be there, but we'll see. Well, I have a feeling I'll be. I won't say how, but I have a feeling I'll be there. August 14th is a joint practice. August 13th is a joint practice against Miami. August 21 is a joint practice against Houston. I will definitely be at all 3 of those. Like I said, I think I'm just going to park myself in Allen Park for a while.
Yeah, just set up shop in Allen Park there.
Yeah,
So
I might just verbo it this year for a couple of weeks, because by the time you add up all the gas going back and forth every day,
yeah,
you might as well just stay in a verbo, even if I come home.
Yeah.
Unless someone has an extra room open. just hit me up. Let me know.
Yeah.
So
set up, maybe even do a show right from that spot. That'll be the benefit. You'll be able to join Will for a live show if you can provide some lodging.
there you go. Usually I go live outside the gates. I would do that every year, but then I was going live inside the gates every year. But those videos never really turned out the greatest, so I think I unlisted them. But I will definitely do some reporting this time. The goal is to be credentialed. That way I'm on the sidelines getting the information that I need and want. But you know what? You don't really need to be unless, see, the credential part gets you more access before or after practice, right? And then in the locker room, and then doing the press media availability with the players. That's the only difference during training camp, outside of the days that public's not allowed, that you could potentially be there. So there's definitely its benefits to it. But again, it's hard, being 2.5 hours away to be able to make every event. And independent media is independent media. That comes out of my pocket. I'm not, supported by SportsCenter or ESPN
Right.
or anybody like that. So anyway, let's get into today's news. If you want to join the membership, the link is tagged at the top of the chat. And if you get in the membership now, between now and the dates that we give away tickets, you'll have an opportunity, because there's going to be members-only events where only members are going to be allowed into the streams, and we're going to give tickets away that way. We're also going to do a donation day to Rockhound Cancer Foundation, and so the highest donor was going to win tickets. But make sure you can go, right? Make sure you can go to these things. I don't want to see someone donating and then they win tickets and they're like, oh, I can't go. Do you have different tickets available? It just doesn't work that way. Like, whatever tickets we have available, those are the options that we're going to have for that day. Because they go quick. They go real quick. Let's walk into this first thing about Aiden. It kind of touches on Micah Parsons, too. Is there anything you want to get to before we get rolling?
No, I think we're good. I'm ready to roll with this.
Okay, so Mike Florio put out an article about 6:30 this morning, and it was talking about Aiden's contract and the fact that he might benefit from a delayed deal. Now, we've spoken about this ad nauseum, right, Riley? I mean, it's been a topic that we've discussed many times, and now if you can kind of see, the future a little bit, I guess what I've been saying for a while makes sense, right? If you can pick up that 5th-year option and get through that 4th year, and now you're only on the hook for $20 million, man, that is a pebble in the pond compared to $40 million a year, right? What are you thinking?
Yeah, absolutely. And then it always comes down to the timing of these, right? It's kind of the same thing, with JMO. We've heard that extensions incoming for him. You feel like it's not. I'm sure you've got good source information on that, but it's, do you pay him now or do you wait? Did they have an amazing season and then you have to pay him more? It's kind of right, that tough judgment for Brad Holmes. When do you strike? When do you put the contract in front of him and ask him to sign it?
Okay, so let me touch on something that you just said, right? And this is not, I'm not knocking you, but you said, this is what a lot of fans have said. What happens if Aiden goes out and has a banger of a year and you didn't sign him this year and they say you're going to have to pay him more? I don't believe that is the case at all. And here's my reasoning. What is the ceiling to you for a defensive end right now in this market? I keep looking to my left because you're on my left. I'm going to have to switch screens. Now I can look at you. What is the ceiling for you when you're talking about defensive ends right now? What is that market? Where is it? What do you think?
A dollar amount?
Yep.
150 million, somewhere in there.
Yearly, APY.
Oh man, 40.
Okay, so that's Myles Garrett, right? $40 million a year.
Okay.
That's the ceiling.
Okay.
So if Aiden goes out and has a banger of a season, why would he get paid more than that? Would anyone say that one great season for Aiden Hutchinson is better than 10 seasons of Myles Garrett that have all been great? I don't think so. I don't think that there's any comparison between what Myles Garrett has done and what Aiden has done. Not even close.
Right.
Pressures are great, but I think that when we've had the conversation that when you look at different statistical journals, if you will, that kind of put out these stats to say, you know, he's had 20 pressures in a game. Okay, well then why does this one say he only had 12? It's because pressures are calculated differently from different, you know, analytical databases. So I think that you have to take a lot of that stuff with a grain of salt. You need to look at the player as a whole and what they've done as a whole. I think that you're paying a player for what they've done and what you expect them to do, depending on their age in the league. Right now,
Right.
Aiden is entering his second contract at some point. He's going to be entering his prime. He's also coming off of a major injury. So you need that window to kind of figure out where Aiden is. I think so far, the analysis that, you know, and the reports that we've read and heard and what Brad is, you know, Brad has come to the light and said, Aiden looks good, right? They expected him to be this way. But now you have to see it on the field. Myles has put it on the field. Year in, year out. I don't think he's had less than 10 sacks in the last 10 years. And I think he's had 4 or 5 in a row that were like 14 or more. That's a ton, right? That's a phenomenal body of work. So for Aiden to go out and have a crazy good year, I don't think that is going to change the conversation. If right now you're saying that the conversation is 33 to 37, where I believe it is, and he gets a banger of a year, I think it then changes from 35 to 39. I don't think a few $1 million a year is going to make a difference. Any thoughts on that before we roll into this video?
Well, yeah, you answered the question I was going to ask was going to be, okay, so if we're looking at it like that, what would you expect his APY to be if he signed today versus if he has the best season of his career this upcoming season, which we all hope he does.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that actually does make sense. There's a ceiling for it. You're not going to go past Myles Garrett, even if he has the best season ever from a defensive end, because it's only 1 year, right? From at that production. So yeah, I do think that there is a ceiling. I think that makes sense. It'd be interesting to see how it plays out, though. It seems like Hutchinson, though, is somebody that they've publicly committed to. They're sure that he's going to be around for the long haul. So we'll end up seeing, you know, what his APY ends up being at that point.
Well, I got to put something in the chat just because, and this is a question for you, Carrie, talking about the Bears are trying to snatch Z. I haven't watched anything yet, but if you heard that from a 7 a.m. show, let me know, because I'll tell you right now, it is clickbait. If it is breaking news, and then
that.
Peter Van Larhoven. So his statement in here about the Aiden contract is Aiden is an outstanding player, but is he really elite? And before that, says I really feel Aiden gets a huge bump because of the Michigan ties. See, I just don't. I don't see that. I think the Michigan ties were great when he was drafted. But how much more does that, you know, being the hometown kid, I don't know why that would drive any dollars in Aiden's pocket. I think it's a good thought. I think it makes sense to a degree, but I just don't see how that helps the Lions right now because he's the hometown guy. Does that make sense? He's been around.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know.
It's a great comment from Peter too. And that's something that I was talking to one of my friends the other day about it too, because he was, we were talking about Ahmed and how the whole situation with the roster set up. And I was telling him about Hutchinson and saying, you know, it's an interesting thing because the kid's from Michigan, played at Michigan University, goes number 2 in the draft to the team in Michigan. So it's a good thought from Peter. And I do wonder what people think if it's, you know, if you feel extra attachment to Aiden Hutchinson because of the Michigan ties.
Yeah. No, I like it too. That should be a poll question at some point. So, I mean, there was something else I just saw in here. Hold on.
And I did hear this morning as I was just prepping a little bit, I did hear that Zadarius to Chicago kind of rumor, if you want to call it that. I don't know if there's any validity to it, but.
Was that on an earlier show?
It was, yeah.
Oh, then it's horseshit. Sorry, it is. It's horseshit. It's exactly what it is. I know exactly what show you're talking about then.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's roll in. Not to throw stones, but it's just it gets old, man. Just the clickbait is just some people thrive on that stuff, and you know what? You guys all fall for it. So shame on you, actually. Here we go. Let's get into this video here. I got to switch screens. So Mike Florio talking about Aiden Hutchinson's contract, but it starts with Micah Parsons, and I think it's some good detail here, listening to Micah Parsons and how he's kind of explaining, the whole or not explaining the contract situation here, going through, I guess training camp, if you will. I mean, you could call it training camp, OTAs and that. But let's listen to Micah Parsons and Mike Florio, and then we'll be right back.
Some people like to take their time more than others, you know what I mean? Can't rush the process. He wants the deal to go as cleanly as possible. I want the deal to go as clear as possible. So it's just about getting it done as cleanly and quickly as possible.
Micah Parsons talking about the contract negotiations. That was during his appearance at minicamp. He's entering the final year of his rookie deal, fifth-year option, $24 million. Look, this could be done very easily. They've already managed to kick the can through year 4. And one of the hidden benefits for NFL teams, if you have a great player that you picked in round 1, you've got the fifth-year option. If you can get through year 4, where what the guy gets is peanuts in comparison to his value, like Micah Parsons played last year for $3 million. If you can get that guy to play for that 4th year, whatever you pay him later, you're never ever making up the gap, the difference that you enjoyed by getting that guy for 3. The Vikings got Justin Jefferson for 3 or 4 in year 4. The Bengals got Jamar Chase for $5 million in year 4. That's kind of the thing that no one ever really talks about, but they got incredible value last year for Micah Parsons. The Bengals got incredible value last year for Jamar Chase because they were able to defer until year 5 that long-term deal.
And so you're saying, because I agree, that is, if you can get the player to agree to it, that everything else is gravy. So since you were able to take advantage of that value, do you think you come back and give them a monstrous record-setting contract to kind of make up for what you got away with? I'll say it that way, too, what you got away with in year 4 of the deal?
Well, but some of these folks that get away with that decide they want to try to get away with it again. The Cowboys
can't get away with it twice. No way.
They can sidle up to the player and throw the arm around his shoulders and convince him of all the other money he's going to make while being a member of the Dallas Cowboys. And they try it over and over again, and it never works. They tried it with Ezekiel Elliott. It didn't work. They tried it with Dak Prescott. It didn't work. And they delay and they delay and they delay, and they paint themselves into a corner. They did that twice with Dak Prescott. The reason Dak Prescott's making $60 million a year is because they waited too long to sign him the first time. They waited too long to sign him the second time. What do they do with Micah Parsons? They're waiting too long. And in their same state, the Texans, what did they do with Derek Stingley Jr. after 3 seasons? They didn't try to kick the can through year 4. Boom! They got it done. They paid him because the Texans and Nick Caserio understand it's never going to get cheaper than it is right now. The moment the window opens on signing a player that you have convinced yourself is going to be a great player based upon 3 years of service, the moment you pounce and sign him, it's always going to be as cheap then as it will ever be. It's only going to get more expensive if you wait. And the Cowboys have seen that play out for themselves over and over again, and they still haven't learned from it. Or they prefer to be the team that everybody's talking about as it relates to whether or not they're going to sign Micah Parsons and when.
The window is short. If I'm Micah Parsons, I make it very simple. You know what I asked for, Mike? I asked to be the top paid, best paid pass rusher in football. Put me at the top of the mountain. It could be $1 more than Myles Garrett, but put me up there. That's my only request, that I have the #1 contract of all pass rushers in football. It will last for maybe a year and a half, then somebody else is going to replace me. But right now, that's what I would ask for.
Well, and, Sims has heard some chatter that they're going to try to blow it out of the water with Parsons. And there's plenty of talk about conversations that Jerry and Micah have had, and none of that matters. None of that matters. Verbal promises aren't worth the paper they're not printed on, especially in this context. Nothing matters until the deal is done. And I don't like the fact that Jerry's been talking directly to Micah Parsons. I don't like this idea that they have a handshake deal. Handshake deal doesn't mean jack diddly squat in this world. You got to have a written contract. And it's real. I've read these contracts. They've already got them on the computer. It's just a matter of figuring out the freaking number. What number works for the Cowboys? Do they want, and like I said this with the Vikings and Justin Jefferson. If you want him, you got to pay him. If you don't want him, trade him. It's that simple. You know you're going to have to pay him. Right. Having a great player means, you win the lottery because you got a great player, but you have to pay the lottery prize eventually to that player. And if you're not going to do it, trade him. This should not take as long as it does. And I know it's a deadline-driven league, but if you have mutual trust with the agent, and we know they don't have mutual respect because Jerry Jones is like, I don't even know who the agent is, which is bullcrap. He knows who the agent is. But this is just rich guys flexing their muscles, their non-existent muscles, their wallet muscles. That's what it is. And it's stupid, and it's short-sighted, and it keeps the Cowboys from being as good as they can be, Michael, because they keep dragging their feet and they end up paying guys more than they should have. And Cowboys fans get mad at me about that, but it's true. It's true. They'd be so much better off if they would just do these deals the moment the window opens instead of waiting until the last minute.
100% right. Number one contract in football. Number one contract in football. Micah Parsons, that's what you should be asking for. That's your market.
Other than quarterback.
Yep. Pass rush.
50,
pass rush.
50, I'd say $50 million a year in new money wouldn't be crazy given the way the cap's going, but we'll see. They should get it done today. They'll probably get it done, a few days before week 1.
Okay, so that should scare the piss out of you, right? And I believe Peter Van Larhoven said it best just a little bit ago in one of the messages in the chat where he said, that he was afraid that the Lions are going to run out of money. And that is absolutely the case. Right? The Lions are running out of money. So how do you effectively negotiate, all of these deals all at once? That's the problem. You can't, right? You have to, use Mike Florio's words here. You have to kick the can, right? I've been saying that for years. You have to be able to kick the can, and that's what I refer to as roster roulette. It is essentially kicking the can a little bit, right? Filling up the bucket here, filling up the bucket there, adding a draft pick here, adding a draft pick there. That is roster roulette. It's roster gymnastics, on level 10, right? It's just, how do you effectively take care of everybody on the roster that you need to keep, right? And then you have to take care of everybody on the roster that you must keep. And then you have to take care of everybody on the roster that you have to keep, right? Those are 3 areas that are hard to do. Your must-haves and you can't live withouts, right? And right now, Aiden, is he a can't live without? Probably. When you look around the league and you look at some of the guys doing this, here's my question to you. And I'm probably going to do a full video on this today as I get time, assuming these storms don't take us out today. Micah Parsons. Mike Florio just said $50 million of new money. Did he say new money per year?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay, so if this rises to $50 million, let's put this into buckets for a second. Micah is not a 4-3 end, okay? And I think that is the difference that, even we were going through this the other day, Riley, when we were looking at contracts, right? And I said, look at linebacker contracts when we were trying to put together the video for Jack Campbell. And you saw that there was outside linebackers and they're making $140 million a year or $101 million a year, whatever it was. Well, those were pass rush specialists, outside linebackers in a 3-4 scheme. That wasn't your typical 4-3 linebacker, Sam, Will, or Mike in a 4-3-4-2 scheme, right? Everyone else was way below those buckets. There you got the big top tier buckets, and then you've got everybody else. Across the board, if Parsons gets a $50 million a year deal, well, then that does raise the cap for everybody. But I think that you have to differentiate between 3-4 and 4-3. 3-4 is expected to get a monster amount of sacks. It's just what they're expected to do. That's why there's 4 linebackers in the middle of the field, right? As opposed to having 4 linemen, you have 4 linebackers. So you have 2 rushing from the outside, but you still have 5 guys in that intermediate box in the middle. It's just a different scheme, right? You guys know that. Aiden Hutchinson this year, what's he making? Did you look it up?
Let me get that pulled up real quick. And
I got it. I thought you were looking it up. I got it. 2025, Aiden is making 11 point, we'll just round up, 11.4 this year. And if the Lions were to cut bait, which they're not going to do, they would lose $31 million in guarantees because they gave him the 5th-year option. The 5th-year option in 2026 right now is projected to be $19.9 million. Rounding up again. It's 19.872, but rounding up. Paying him $19.872 in 2026 is peanuts. Now, even if you were to, franchise tag him the next year in 2027, I see fans all the time saying, man, that is not the way to treat Aiden Hutchinson. This is a business. Take the name off of it, right? Take the name off the name tag, because that doesn't matter. In the grand scheme of things, you are a number in a system in a business, and that is how you were paid. To some degree, I would like to think the Lions do things a little bit differently, right? But I think that Jerry Jones looks at it from, this is my chessboard in numbers. I got to push money around the board and pay these guys. I think Sheila Hamp and the Lions organization, look, this is Aiden Hutchinson. This is Aleem McNeil. You get what I'm saying, Riley? You understand where I'm going with that?
I do. Yeah. They're putting the person in the not just the chess pieces on the board.
Yeah. They're putting the person in front of this, as far as you're putting a name to it, not just a number in a system. And I think that these guys mean a little bit more than what I think some other teams value their players. A new name in the chat that I have never seen is Anthony Bosley Bay. Good morning. Hopefully I didn't butcher your name, but good morning to you. There was a question that popped up, and I think it was by you. It was by you as well. He says, how are the Lions running out of money when they have the 2nd highest salary cap money reserves in the NFL? Great question. So let me pivot for just a moment off of Aiden. Here's why, Anthony. It's like five names. Brian Branch, Jameson Williams, Aiden Hutchinson. Did I say Jameson? I did. Brian Branch, Sam Laporta, Jahmyr Gibbs, Aiden Hutchinson, Jameson Williams. So those 5 names is why the Lions are going to run out of money. When you look at the potential contracts for non-first round guys, because you don't have the 5th option on anybody that's not a first rounder, you effectively are going to have to give new contracts to Jahmyr Gibbs next year, Brian Branch next year. It's
Laporta.
just Sam Laporta. Did I say Jahmyr Gibbs? Because he was drafted in the first round.
You did, yeah.
I didn't mean to say that. So anyone not drafted in the first round, you're essentially going to have to give a new contract to. They just gave Kirby Joseph $20 million a year. They just gave Aleem McNeil $20 million a year. They just gave Penei Sewell $25-ish million a year. Jared Goff is $70 million next year. So that's how they're running out of money. It doesn't last forever. Yes, $30 million might come into the bucket next year. When the NFL does their thing and they, give an expansion on the salary cap number, but that doesn't mean that you don't have bills to pay, right? And they have a lot of bills to pay in short order. Are the ads killing people this morning? I didn't even check the ads yet. Are we getting likes up yet too?
Yeah, let's see where we're at with likes. I haven't seen too many comments on the ads. There was one question I've got percolating here in mind. I wanted to give you an opportunity to answer. Let's get back up here. It was... I should have scanned it here.
Well, hopefully, Anthony, I answered your question for you. If that makes sense, just put a thumbs up in the chat.
Let us know. Yeah. Lions Blood 89 asked with the confused face emoji. He says, I'm confused. So all other shows are nothing but clickbait. Just asking. And I wanted to give you an opportunity to respond to that. I don't know if you saw it.
No, not all other shows are clickbait, but there is one in particular that does nothing but say, I know who Brad Holmes is talking to, and I know that, I know this individual, or I had this conversation, or this conversation happened. So no, not all shows are, but there is one in particular that literally has no connections and spews a bunch of BS, and everybody knows it. Nothing has really come true ever on that channel, whereas this channel and others get a ton right because we don't put clickbait out there, and we're not going to, and we don't drive a bunch of negative narratives. So it just gets old seeing that stuff. So I could probably, not even watching it, I'm going to take a guess that someone had a conversation with someone and that person maybe had a relationship with Ben Johnson, and Z is going to get picked up by the Bears. I'll guarantee it probably went something like that, right? And I'm not going to spend any more time on it. I just know that there's nothing going on right now, unless it's been reported by an insider, right? You hear it all the time. This individual has information on this, and it doesn't come true. But how would that individual have information on a conversation that Brad Holmes had? They wouldn't. They couldn't. It's not possible. Matter of fact, Brad just put that fire out a few weeks ago when he was talking about the draft. And he said, nobody knows who I'm talking to or what I'm doing. He said that. And I was glad that he finally said that, because why do you not see it reported by any of the insiders? Don't you think that Justin Rogers would be the first one to report that stuff?
Oh man, if
or Tim
they had
Twentyman,
it'd be posted within literally 2 minutes.
Exactly my point. And that's why I'm saying if you, and I'll just say, look, I've done my background on some of these people. I know who they are, what they're all about, and you can do your own background. But it's just hilarious to me. Look, it's taken me a couple years to even get an NFL credential. And even with that NFL credential, I'm not inside the room and getting this information. Right? You still have to dig for it. Even being inside the room as a beat reporter, you still have to dig for information, right? You're hand-fed a few more details, like you get the schedule a little bit early, right? You get the training camp schedule a little bit early. You might get a few other details, but largely there's a lot of things you can't talk about. There's things that they're not allowed to talk about. The Lions organizations and other teams say, hey, look, we're not talking about that. From what I've heard, they don't even allow them to ask the right questions, right? They're kind of guided on what they can ask, which I don't like that. And they know that I don't like that. I think that you should be able to ask anything. It's up to you to not answer it. There's sensationalism here, in my opinion, in a lot of different areas that I don't agree with. But that's why we try to promote the truth, transparency, and honesty. And that's going to be it for the day. I don't want to go down the rabbit hole of negativity.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know Lions Blood if you're still in the chat, but I know how Will feels. I know how I feel. I know what this channel's about, and I just wanted to give it an opportunity to say, no, we're not here trying to say, listen to our show, because everyone else is.
You listen to whatever you want. It's your choice to click on clickbait.
Yeah, but.
Yeah, so I want to touch base on Anthony's re-question here. He says, correct me if I'm wrong, but doesn't the salary cap increase every season? It does. And it's expected to go up about 10% every year. Matter of fact, the last 2 years, the salary cap went up, has been the largest increases ever. So that is not normal. And it is expected again next year to kind of follow that same trend. But be that as it may, the Lions have $40 million. If this wasn't going to be a conversation today, so what I'll do is maybe for Friday's show, come on back and I'll outline it all for you, because I want to give you facts. I don't want to give you wrong information. But I can tell you from all the work that I've done on this topic already, yes, they're running out of money. I think next year they're already slated to be minus $37 million as far as cap space. And that's largely because of the contracts that are going to hit. And that's without the rollover, and it's without the dead money being added, and it's without the new salary cap bump. So that might get them to a level playing field. So it's a big problem, right? Jared Goff's going to get paid $70 million. His contract is going up from $32 million this year, I think, is about 32, 33 to 69.8. So you're talking more than double. Just one contract. Remember, we just gave Panay a contract extension. Amon-Ra contract extension, and some of those contracts are going to start to hit. So that's why they're going to run out of money. They're up against it. They're not going to be able to keep everybody.
Yeah, this was a big part of the Friday evening stream that we did with 15 reasons why it's Super Bowl or bust, and that was a huge reason. This is the price of having such a great draft class. You know, we all praise Brad Holmes and love Brad Holmes for, you know, the really all of his draft class, but the classes that he got with Gibbs and Branch and Laporta and Campbell, and this is the price, right? It's great now, but pretty soon, yeah, bills are due. Everyone's got to get paid.
Okay, so we were talking about Aiden. I want to run down some of this real quick. So Mike Florio puts out that with the focus being on Micah Parsons, TJ Watt, and Trey Hendrickson getting new deals, that it's kind of easy to forget that the Lions defensive end, Aiden Hutchinson, is due for a new deal as well. For Lions fans, look, we're not forgetting that. We're not forgetting the fact that this is coming. Some fans want to give him a new deal now. Some see the benefit of, okay, if you can swindle Aiden to sign now and try to save $5 million a year because he's injured, that would be a good deal. I would say, no way. That would be the dumbest thing in the world, my opinion, to be the dumbest thing in the world to do, saving $5 million. But what if you save $5 million, but you just lost $120 million because Aiden goes out in week 1 and can't do what he's supposed to do, or re-injures himself, and then he's done in the league. If he breaks that leg again, he's done. I highly doubt he would ever come back. So that's why you don't do things like that. Now that's the scare tactics, right? Waiting a season, I don't think is going to drive the price up. I really don't. And I'm not saying that the Lions are going to do this. I'm not saying that, that Calvin Shepard is going to dictate what Aiden can and can't do and when he can and can't go after the quarterback to try to keep the stats down. I'm not saying they would do that either. But I don't think that Aiden needs to go out and get 15 sacks a year for this defense to win. Matter of fact, the Lions don't really need sacks to win, and I think that was proven last year. 15 wins, and they were dead nuts in the middle of all the other teams in the NFL. The sack numbers is not what's going to win you football games. It's the TFLs. It's shutting down the run game and then being effective in the pass game. And all of those things are starting to come together. But what he does say that I really respected this out of his article is that no one is talking about it because largely Aiden Hutchinson is not talking about it. You see, that's the difference. The difference between what the Lions do and what these Lions players talk about is apparent, right? Trey Hendrickson is really loud right now, really loud about what he wants to do. And that's caused some issues with Cincinnati, but I think it's Cincinnati that dropped the ball. If Aiden were to do that, how would you feel about it, Riley? What if Aiden was coming to every podium that he could and saying, I'm not having conversation with the Lions because they're not talking to me. They're not talking to my agent. They're not talking about contracts. I want to remain in Detroit. I want to win a Super Bowl in Detroit, but I'm just saying if I end up somewhere else too, hopefully they get a bunch of picks for me. You know what I'm saying? Like that. That's what Trey came out and said. What would be your opinion on Aiden then?
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit twofold because like we were saying earlier, we it's one thing we admire about the Lions front office. One thing I admire that, they're taking into consideration the person. And for me, I always go back to, I hear, God, these guys are so greedy, man. What's the difference between, $30 million or $25 million? Well, the difference is $5 million. That's still a lot of money. However, I feel like now, just as you're asking the question, what would come to mind for me is roster roulette. That's the thing that would be right at the forefront of my mind. Like, man, if it's going to be this painstaking, if it's going to be this difficult, you can draft somebody and you could replace somebody, right? So I love Aiden Hutchinson for sure, and I'm thankful that he's not doing that and has the sense and wherewithal, it seems, to be a little more couth about the situation and realize you got to come back and perform. And you've maintained the entire time. The Lions got to see him on the field again before they sign him. You've got to see him play, right? You've got to see him go up against an opponent in real time and make sure that he can produce and he's not going to get hurt again.
Hey, do me a favor real quick. I just noticed that this gentleman popped into the chat, and that is Cerebral Palsy Gamer. He will be doing an interview of me later on today at 4 p.m. Eastern time, and that is it will be recorded the best way I understood it. But go to his channel, especially if you guys are gamers or whatever. Subscribe to it, and then you'll be able to see the interview at some point when it gets put out. But he reached out, wanted to do an interview, and of course I want to do everything and anything I can to help anybody. And I'm looking forward to it, man. I really am. So appreciate you coming in this morning too. And don't forget to text me later when you're getting ready, so I have that link so that we can get rocking and rolling today. But everyone, do me a favor, check out his channel, subscribe to it, give him some likes, whatever, and then hopefully he'll let us know when the video is going to drop. I can't wait to be part of it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So, Peter Van Larhoven thinks we're going to lose JMO and Branch. I can't imagine losing Branch. JMO, I think you can replace a receiver. You can't replace his speed, but you can replace a receiver. But replacing a safety like Branch, I think is way, way, way more difficult to do. Way more difficult. Matter of fact, Riley, in your notepad, write this conversation down, JMO and Branch, and then we'll come back to that. So moving forward into this article, this is the thing that I've been saying all along, and Mike Florio just kind of slammed the door shut on the whole idea. Like, this is the real reason why they picked up the 5th-year option, which I expected. I think I was the only one on a channel saying I expected this to happen. I expected the 5th-year options to happen because I expected them to want to do their due diligence on JMO and Aiden. It wasn't all a money thing from my perspective. I think that they wanted to know, is it his leg? Is it his maturity on the other side, right? So here's his quote. He says, the problem is the serious leg injury suffered by Aiden Hutchinson in 2024. The Lions presumably want to be sure he'll be back to where he was before assuming the financial risk that he possibly won't be, right? That he won't be the same person. Hutchinson, in turn, should want his financial reward before assuming the risk of a new injury, which I'm surprised there hasn't been a ton of conversation with that. But I think that Aiden is a pro's pro. I think that he understands, that a Super Bowl in Detroit is more important than anything. He's not making peanuts for money. Did you look up Aiden's contract by chance?
You know what? I had it here. Let me get it pulled back up. I do have it pulled up, actually.
So I'm curious to what he's making this year and next year. And then here is in the chat, I just put a link to Mike Florio's article. You guys can check it out later, so you can kind of read some of the things that he was talking about. But that's really the highlights. I think that, like he says, the Lions, they kind of have the upper hand. They hold the rights on Aiden for another 2 years, and they can apply the franchise tag for another 2. So Aiden could be in town for another 4 years if the Lions decide to franchise him. And then the franchise tag, if I remember correctly, will be based on the top 5 contracts every year. So it's not like he's going to be getting peanuts if they franchise tag him, and I don't think that that's a slap in the face to Aiden. I think it's just business, and it is what it is. What's he making this year?
So this, he signed for a $35 million contract when he was a rookie. So this upcoming season, at least according to this, here's just under $6 million.
For Aiden this year?
Yes. I don't know if this is accurate.
What are you on?
Hang on. I thought I was on Spotrac here real quick. 19.8.
He's making 11.4 this year. 11.4. And then his 5th-year option is 19.9.
Okay. Yep.
So he'll make a total of 55.6, rounding up, for his first 5 seasons. So just a little bit over, $11 million a year.
Right.
That's not peanuts. Now, what he's looking to make is about that much in 1 year, right? About 45 million a year is probably the ceiling for anybody. If Micah Parsons gets 50, he'll be grossly overpaid. I don't think any player not named a quarterback is worth that kind of money. And I think that there needs to be contract limits installed by the CBA. I think that they have to put contract limits in soon, because what's happening here, and I don't know if this is good or bad, I would pen this too, Riley, this conversation, is roster limits something that makes sense in the NFL? And what's happening to rosters now when you're seeing players go to different teams. Is this a good thing for the NFL that really good players are going to other teams? A lot of them don't do well. They don't really reshape the next organization that they go to. But if that player would stay with their original team, and if they were having a pretty decent career, but the roster cap limits have exposed them, and now they have to move on, maybe there should be some cap limits on salaries. And I'm not saying I'm not for capitalism, and I think that everyone should make as much money as they want to make in life. That's a fact. But $50 million a year to play football, I think is a ton of money. And I get it that they put their bodies in harm's way every day, but I think that this is now becoming an issue where teams can't keep their teams together. So I think, one, you have to expand the roster. It has to go from 53 to at least 56. At least give these guys at least 3 more guys. And then maybe 75 total, with the vet squad and practice squad.
Yep.
But adding a few more protections. You need to be able to protect more guys.
Yep.
So I think that's my main issue right now. All right, we'll step off of this. If you want to check out more, obviously check out Mike Florio's link that I posted in the chat. I'll also put it in the description. Riley, what's up next, man? Why don't we walk into Lions news today? It's all Lions news here. We got a hard stop here in about 4 minutes. So what can we sneak in here in about 4 minutes?
Yeah, there were some comments from Aaron Glenn on Dan Campbell. Now, we know that Dan Campbell was, very complimentary of Sean Payton, the way that Sean Payton made him an assistant head coach. And, it was one thing that when Dan Campbell took over for the Lions, he made it clear, hey, I want to put my guys in the position that they can further their careers, that they can have success. And so Jets coach Aaron Glenn spoke about how Dan Campbell has helped prepare him to be in the head coaching position he is today. Aaron Glenn said, I give a lot of credits to Coach Campbell in Detroit because he allowed me to actually act in the position of being a head coach, to be able to do the calendar for the offseason, to plan training camp out, be able to make decisions that he was supposed to make. But he allowed me to make those decisions to get me ready to be in this position. I think everybody knew in Detroit last year that Johnson and Glenn, it was their last year in Detroit. Felt 90% sure of that. And I just think it's awesome that Dan Campbell puts these guys in position to know that, hey, if you're good, you're not going to keep them. If they're really good, they're going to move on. And Dan Campbell obviously gave Aaron Glenn a shot. And I know that everybody here seems to be, anti-Ben Johnson now. So it's kind of, anti-Ben Johnson and pro Aaron Glenn. But these comments, I'm sure, are stir the hearts for a lot of Lions fans too, because we all love Dan Campbell. And it's great to see him put these guys in the position to succeed. So I thought that was kind of interesting and good comments from Aaron Glenn, still praising Dan Campbell for the help that he gave him.
I think he's forever praising. I think that it goes both ways too. I think that Aaron Glenn, the more you hear about Aaron Glenn after leaving Detroit, is exactly why I was never on the train of fire Aaron Glenn, or that Aaron Glenn was on some hot seat, or Aaron Glenn wasn't a good defensive coordinator. Has he made his mistakes? Sure. All coaches do. But I think largely Aaron Glenn is exactly who we wanted in that position. I probably would even have been afraid to have him as a head coach at some point after getting to know him, right, the last few years in Detroit from afar. Aaron Glenn is going to be, I think, one of the better coaches in the NFL for a long time. I don't think he's going to flop. I think the Jets may flop for him, but I really believe that he has an opportunity to turn that organization around. The more, like I was saying, the more and more you read and hear about Aaron Glenn from the players, right? The football perspective, him as a man. What was the quote that I heard the other day? I don't remember who said it, but that Aaron Glenn was an even better man than he was a football coach. That's coming from players, right? And other coaches that he's coached with. That speaks volumes, I think, to the type of player, the type of coach he was to the players. I can only imagine what's being said about Dan Campbell. I mean, we've heard plenty, but when and if Dan Campbell ever leaves, the stories that are going to come from him, I think are going to be, it's going to be an amazing book. Let's just put it that way. I think it'll be a great book. Maybe I'll write a book. I want to write a book.
Should.
I got to write something down here, though. What's next? We got a hard stop here.
Yep. Trey says we are at 36 likes. Keep smashing that, chat. And if you are not subscribed, guys, do us a favor, please subscribe to the show. We're trying to get to 10,000 here before the season starts, which is not that far around the corner.
Well, I would have liked to have been there before.
We should be there.
Well, I should have been there before
The draft?
but
yeah.
I also have to put out more content too.
Yeah, we're working on it. We're working on it.
I got too many channels and too many things going on. Okay, real quick, we're going to take a brief break, but before we do, just to kind of echo the same thing that Riley was, do us a favor. If you are now joining the channel this morning for the morning show and you have not subscribed, I would, A, like to know why. Send me an email, mailbag@rockdown.com. B, if you haven't hit the like button, you know that's the only way that we're going to turn off ads. We're the only channel that will give up ads for you, right? It's truly a fan-driven channel. It always has been. And I always used to use the message that, you know, buy a super fan for the super fan. You're all a super fan. Every single one of you is a super fan. You don't need a costume to be a super fan. You love your Detroit Lions just as much as I do. And being a Lions loyalty member now for 27 years with my father, it's been a family tradition for a long time, is part of the reason why I even did this. You know, after going through cancer and waking up with my to-do list, that's why I'm here. And that's why you're going to get truth, honesty, and transparency, because it means more. This is not a payday for me, right? This means more. And with your help, we can help it mean more to others too. Rockdown Cancer Foundation wants to take it to the next level. And over the next year or two, that is our goal. And with your help, obviously here, talking Lions, talking football each and every day is a great way to reach out into the community. And 90-10 is kind of my goal, right? We want to be 90 on football, 10% on Rockdown Cancer Foundation. There'll be other ways that we'll promote Rockdown Cancer Foundation, but immediately hitting the community here and trying to help the community is our goal. This fall, we are going to have our first annual golf outing, and I'll be putting out some more information on that soon. We need, or I would like to get at least 100 people to show up to this event. It'll probably cost about $75 a person. That'll have your entry. That'll be your 18, holes. That'll include dinner afterwards, lunch at the turn. There'll be, carts flying around, giving you guys drinks and that. We'll probably buy a few drinks for you guys too, but it'll be a fun event. It'll be local here. The goal, I think we're going to do Lake Doster first. Really nice course and not terribly expensive. But they have really good clubhouse where we can do what we want to do. There's going to be all sorts of raffles, silent auctions, and really, really, really nice memorabilia and things that you're going to be able to get your hands on just for showing up. Of course, we'll have grab bags and everything else put together, but we'd love to have you guys join us. Not only subscribe to the channel, but becoming a member today. The members only group will have their first shot at training camp tickets. You can get your own, but a lot of people don't get them. The minute you join the links, there's like 30,000 people in there trying to get the same tickets that you are. We'll already have them, and we'll want to make sure that you get a chance to get out there. The information that I've gotten back from people that we've sent to training camp is why I do it. Their first experience going to a training camp and how important it was for them to bring their child, their son or their daughter, in having a memorable experience. So if you've won training camp tickets from us in the past, please do me a favor and put that out on social media. Say, hey, Rockdown is doing it again this year. They're going to give away 100 tickets to training camp. Follow them here. Put a link to the channel and let them know to subscribe. And for the people that do that tag my Twitter at Will Rock Jr., I'm going to pick out just one random person to give away a Rockdown jersey to. And people know how much I've given away here. We've given away over $15,000 of giveaways in the last couple of seasons. And we're going to continue to do that. That's why this is a super fan for a super fan. This channel means more here at Rockdown Detroit Lions. Appreciate you guys. Let's get back into the content. See what we got driving here. Riley's kind of driving the show today, so we'll see what he's got next. All right, what's up next here? We got Lions news all day today. It's Wednesday. It's 9:01 a.m. We're going to be getting into the second hour of the show.
Yeah, let's keep it rolling. Now I want to start this one just asking. I'm going to ask you, Will. I'm going to ask the everybody in the comments. When I say Terrion Arnold, what comes to mind? And does the word bust come to mind in any way, shape, or form?
Whoa, what?
Terrion Arnold and bust. Do they belong in the same sentence? Do they belong in the same conversation?
I'm not hearing you. I'm really not, because I think that's a bust to even talk about it like that. Like, really, Terrion a bust?
Yeah, so it's interesting. Matt Holder from Bleacher Report put out an article with 6 year 2 players. He says that they need to have a great year to avoid the bust label. He says, fair or not, the Detroit Lions selected Terrion Arnold with the hopes he could solve one of the most significant issues from the year before, as cornerback was arguably their biggest weakness heading into last year's draft. However, the 24th overall selection got picked on as a rookie, surrendering the 10th most receptions, 56, among corners, and he gave up a 99.2 passer rating when targeted during the regular season, according to Pro Football Focus. Arnold was quoted, he said, "I learned a lot. I feel like coming into this role, it was a lot. I got better as the season went on, started to find myself. It's just one of those things where I'm really looking forward to next year." You posted something, Will, the other day I thought was great. It was Terrion, his mirror footwork, and you pointed out how fast his footwork is in his training. Man, it's lightning fast. He's no doubt putting in the work. But Holder says last year was certainly a learning experience for the Alabama product. Speaking to his growth down the stretch of the team's schedule, he's expected to be a starter heading into year 2. Well, he was a starter last year. He started week 1. However, especially while playing for a team that has Super Bowl aspirations, Terrion cannot get too comfortable or afford to get off to a slow start in 2025. I get it. You know, he's writing an article. Terrion Arnold wasn't a perfect player last year. Matt Holder from Bleacher Report.
But right, a couple things come to mind here, and before you finish. One, I got to give a shout out to a Packers fan in the chat. His name is Henny. He says, "I love the positivity. As a Packers fan, I can't even troll here." He says, "Keep up the good work, guys." I appreciate that. Look, we know Lions, Packers, Vikings, Bears. We all visit each other on a daily, and we try to do our best to troll a little bit. But we appreciate having you guys in, especially during Lions Packers week, man. Like, this is the place to be. We'll have different Packers outlets on during that week, just like we will for Vikings and Bears. Schedule's already full. So we know that we've got certain people coming in during those weeks to talk both sides of the football. Let me give out a couple more compliments or comments here in the chat. Bill Rowland says TA is a dog. And I love this one. Who said this one? Derek Lewis says this. Yes, there will be a bust of TA in the Hall of Fame. I love that one. So yes, he is a bust. Soon to be in the Hall of Fame. I love that one. Trace, no bust on Terrion. Who else is in here?
That's a great comment.
Yeah, it is. That's great. It is great. So, man, TA being a bust, if he doesn't have a sophomore season that shines, I think you're going to hear it. I think you're going to hear it from a lot of fans. And I think that they're going to trash TA. I don't see it. I had a brief moment talking with Terrion Arnold in Green Bay at the draft. Eric and I were walking out of Radio Row, walking back to our vehicle, and TA was walking in, where it's only access for media that day. And he's walking in with his family, friends, whoever he was with. And so we stopped and had a conversation with him, and I'm going to post that as part of the new intro here at some point. But I talked to him specifically about the penalties. And I said, I thought that they were giving you a lot of ticky-tacky stuff in the beginning of the season. And he says, yeah. He's like, but you got to look at the last 8 games or the last 12 games, whatever it was. I only had 2 penalties. And we walked through this the other day. A week and a half, 2 weeks ago, I was talking about this very same thing. When you look at what Terrion's body of work was, at least the last half of the season, I mean, he shut down Justin Jefferson in I don't know, what week was that? Week 12, week 13? The first game against the Vikings. He shut him down. He did very well, both games. especially week 18. I think that he was a product of being a rookie. All rookies, grow in their own way. I also think that he was a product of the defense having a ton of injuries. This was brought up the other day. I can't remember who said it, but they're making a comment about, it might have been about TA and the lack of play, if you will, because he was giving up a lot of yards. And I said, he's a product of the defense. If everything in front of you is injured, and now you've got third and fourth stringers playing that aren't supposed to be there, that don't know the system as well as they should, they're not as good of athletes that they just replaced, how can you expect the guys behind you to play as good or better? Now, the other side of that argument is, well, if you're elite, you're going to play elite. But if you're a rookie and you're kind of getting there, your feet wet, so to speak, you're going to have some bumps and bruises along the way. But to lose 15 guys at least on the defensive side of the football, losing, a little bit of pass rush because of, the interior losses that we lost and the exterior losses that we lost, I think that played a big role in why the Lions were giving up some yards in the pass game. 2, it's because the Lions are playing with a big lead and they were playing that soft cushion defense. And 3, he's a rookie. He's going to have some mistakes. But if you watch what Terrion did, and exactly why I highlighted that video the other day, his mirror match ability, the way that he stays in phase with receivers, how many times did you see Terrion give up a huge catch and 10, 12, 15 yards after the catch? How many do you think? I mean,
It wasn't often.
Hardly ever, right?
Hardly ever.
If ever. I don't remember one. He would drop you where you caught the ball, or he's right there in your hip pocket trying to make a play. Now imagine the game slows down a little bit for him in year 2. And now he's going to be able to play a lot better. So that's what I'm expecting out of TA this year. I think I said it the other day. I expect him to be in that top half of DBs this year, and I think that DJ Reed is going to be a big reason why, too. I'm just wondering what the Lions are going to do with DJ Reed. Is he going to follow? Is he going to trail? I'd have to go back and look at some tape. I can't remember if DJ Reed was trailing or if he was stuck on one side or the other. But if one of them is going to follow the receiver, then Terrion may get stuck with, the second level receiver. That's great. If DJ is going to take the number ones, that's fine. TA doesn't have to take the number ones to be elite. You still have a job to do to shut down a number 2. And I think that's a tough enough job in the NFL anyway. TA is going to be fine, man. This is his second season. I think he's going to be just fine. The penalties can't happen, though. Penalties cannot happen. And, the last thing I'll say on TA is this. Look at his red zone work. From 20 to 20, yes, there was some issues at times. It was not that bad. Once you get into the red zone with TA, he really started to shut down everybody. He only gave up 4 touchdowns last year. That's it, 4. Less than a handful. You know what they say, more than a handful is too much. So less than a handful for TA.
Yeah, that's a remarkable number. And then as you're saying that too, you're talking about DJ Reed. It kind of puts it in my mind, what position group is the strongest strength of the Lions? Is it the DB room? Is it the receiver room? I mean, you look at both sides of the ball, and that's where I'm going to take us here next. We talk about defense. On the offensive side, Alex Ballantyne, also from Bleacher Report, put out an article about every NFL's offense. Sorry, give me one sec here. Pull this back up. Every offense's potential downfall. So best and worst case scenario for the Lions, he's got the biggest need being the interior of the offensive line. Let me start with the negative because then we'll finish on the positive. He says,
hold on. Jack, you know what I'm talking about. That's hilarious. Riley didn't even get it, or he was so stoic, he didn't react. So all right, keep on going.
Something went over my head. I'm gonna go back and watch this and kill myself for having to go right over my head. But
I think it's an old school reference when I said that TA only gave up 4 TDs, and I said it wasn't even a handful. And you know what they say about handfuls: more than a handful is too much. But while you ponder on that, let's continue.
Giving me some food for thought here. So worst case scenario for the Lions, he's put brain drain, and Frank Ragnow's retirement could cause some regression. In most cases, the three most important people involved in scheming an offense are the play caller, the quarterback, and the center. The pivot is an overlooked position, but the communication between the snapper and the quarterback is crucial to sorting out protections and making adjustments at the line. Detroit will be working with a new play caller and center this season, leaving space for some regression. Graham Glasgow, Christian Mahogany, and second-round pick Tate Ratledge have all reportedly taken snaps at center, which we know. The Lions will have to trust their ability to draft and develop, but there's definitely a version of this experiment that doesn't work out and takes the team from elite to just above average. So before I go on to his best case scenario, again, that's his worst case scenario. What are your thoughts on what he said there?
Remind me, what was the statement again?
Basically says brain drain and Frank Ragnow's retirement cause. So he's talking about losing Ben Johnson. There's your brain drain. Losing Frank Ragnow. There's your center. So your three most important play call or elements of an offense, your center, your quarterback, your offensive play caller. Well, two of the three are gone. So the Lions will have to trust their ability to draft and develop, but there's definitely a version of this experiment that does not work and takes the team from elite to just above average.
I'm highly confused right now, and I don't know why. So what is the real question? You're talking about the losses on the offensive side of the football. So Ben Johnson
right,
will be lost, and then Frank Ragnow. And so what's the main question as far as what are you trying to get at?
Does losing Ben Johnson and Frank Ragnow, we've talked about this in many different ways, but does losing those two give you concern that the Lions offense will go from elite to, as Ballantyne wrote here, even just above average? Because that would be a drop off for this team, right?
Yeah. Look, the Lions offense is going to stay elite. Okay, I'll just keep this one really short. The players are still there, right? It takes the players on the field to win these football games. It's not the coordinator. It's not the coaches. It's the players. The players are on the field. They have to do the job. I don't care what play you call. They have to go out and execute. The fact that we've retained everybody but Ragnow, I think, doesn't change a thing. I do believe that losing Ragnow is a huge loss. I think everyone knows that, how I felt about Ragnow and his commitment to the Lions, even during some of the worst injuries that anybody could go through, and the pain that he's clearly dealt with, and the pain that was inflicted upon him and having to leave the game. But I don't think it's enough to say that we're going to go from elite to a just above average. This is still going to be a top 5 offense. Will the run game maybe slow down a little bit? Maybe in the beginning. I think that the guys need to settle in a little bit and trust each other. That's the biggest thing about the offensive line is trust. You have to know that the guy next to you is going to do their job. It's the same thing on the defense. You have to know that the guy in front of you or to the left or right of you is going to do their job. The minute that trust is redeveloped, they'll be fine. But you still have to stop Jahmyr Gibbs. You still have to stop Jameson Williams. You still have to stop Amon-Ra St. Brown. And I don't think that they're not going to keep Goff protected. Goff is probably going to get the ball out a little bit quicker. We might see some shorter routes run, some quicker hitter passes. I think the offense is going to be just fine. Top 5 still. I don't think that that's going to fall off. You have 97% of the team still intact.
Yeah, and you've maintained all the way through. This is Dan Campbell's offense, right? He had Anthony Lynn that first year. It wasn't working out. Campbell, it's easy to forget. For me, I know, I had to go back and think, man, that's right. He was calling the plays. Then he turned it to Ben Johnson. I've got no problems with Ben Johnson personally, but I do feel like you're right that it was Dan Campbell's offense. And then you give credit to Ben Johnson for what he did, but it's not like Dan Campbell's sitting there wondering right now, like, man, what plays are we going to call? How are we going to do this? And you said last week, they're still going to go for it on 4th down. They're still going to be aggressive. They're still going to be creative. Not much is going to change. it seems, with the offense. And that's the other side of the coin here from Alex Ballantyne's article. The best case scenario is that the core does not skip a beat. The major players for a Lions offense that has been a top 5 unit in each of the last 3 seasons are all back. Jared Goff will still have Amon-Ra St. Brown as the focal point of the passing game. And obviously you still have the duo of David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs. We're about to find out how much of the Lions' success on offense was due to Ben Johnson. New offensive coordinator John Morton was an offensive analyst for the team in 22, but he was away the last 2 years with the Denver Broncos. But if Goff and Morton can work together to figure out the play calling, the Lions should continue to be a top 5 unit. It's exactly what you just said, Will. So let us know in the comments. Do you think that the Lions offense will still be top 5? Even removing your bias from it, what's your realistic expectation? Top 5, top 3, best offensive in the NFL? Where do you guys fall on that front?
So let me add another caveat to this. Okay, I think a lot of people gave Ben Johnson a ton of credit for all of the unique, creative, trick plays, right? My take is I think it's the easiest thing to do is to create trick plays. It's not hard, right? Everyone can pull off a trick play. We've seen just about every trick play that can really be run. I'm sorry, the hook and ladder, that's not new. A lot of the things that they've done has been done before. The trick comes from when to call it. That is the trick, right? It's just like, with a magician, it's not that you don't know that magic is happening, right? It's the sleight of hand. It's not the trick. It's the sleight of hand that you're not seeing. So it's kind of like the play within the play, right? Just like a magician has to hide their handiwork. So does an offensive play caller. They have to hide their handiwork. When am I going to call this play? That is the trick. So, and then it's all in the eye of the beholder. Oh my God, that play was incredible. And did you see how he lateraled that back to Jameson Williams and it went for a TD? Great. Wonderful. It wasn't so much that the play was incredible. It was when they called it and the fact that the other team was not expecting it. But if you think for 1 minute that Ben is not going to run the same damn stuff in Chicago, he will. It's just when is he going to call it? And I think that Dan has probably figured that out about Ben a little bit. When he's going to call it, because Dan knows those things. I don't think that they're going to get one on us at all. I think that we're always going to be prepared for these trick plays.
Yeah, there was 3, 4, 5 things I just made timestamps of and notes of things that you said that I really like there. But I think that's a great point. Ben Johnson had the leash. He had the freedom. He had the permission to be creative. Let's see how creative he is when he's the head coach. Don't doubt that he has the ability, but is he going to have the same gumption to let it hang, to go for it as often? And I cannot wait for, I think they play Chicago week 2.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's going to be such a fun game. Those Bears-Lions games, they're always something you circle, but even more so now because it's going to be the student and the master. We'll see how it plays out.
It's funny. Many weeks ago, I said that Ben Johnson was going to be booed way more or way worse than what Matthew Stafford ever received in Detroit. And then you've seen a lot of the other channels starting to talk about that. But I firmly believe that Ben is going to get booed out of that stadium, and he's expecting it. He probably shouldn't. I don't even know if he has kids, but he probably shouldn't bring his kids and his wife to the game. Because apparently we boo kids too, right? Apparently, which was all a lie. But
see, that says a lot because I know you were at that game at Ford Field, the playoff game, and from what I understand, they rained heavy on Stafford. But you think and expect Ben Johnson will get it even worse?
Yeah, I mean, I said it on the channel over a month ago.
Yeah,
I fully expect it. Fully expect it. I mean, you've seen the outpouring of hate for Ben Johnson when he left to the Bears. You just don't do that. And again, we highlighted this last week, the Green Light podcast, where, Brad Holmes said that he didn't know that Ben was going to the Bears. And it was like last minute, oh, peace, I'm going across the street. Like, what? What do you mean? Like, there was no open communication. And, if there was, maybe Brad wouldn't say that he knew. Maybe he just wants to keep it all under wraps and not try to stoke the flames in Detroit a little bit, more than they already were. But I think that there's still common respect, between all of them. I think that, they all respect the hell out of each other. But, man, going to a division rival is like, I don't know how you get away with that. I don't know how you sleep at night knowing that it just feels bad to me. Like, it feels weird, I guess is a better word to use, that in that last game against the Bears, that they totally fumbled that last 32 seconds of the game. It just seems really off to me that happened, and then Ben goes to that team. And I've said this before. It's like, did Ben, tell Caleb, hey, we need to make it, and then I'll see you next year. So do what you got to do. We need to make it. We'll see you next year. Get Eberflus out of there. Get everybody out of there. I'll turn it around for you. I don't know. That's my tinfoil hat for the day, I guess.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, for when I was hearing Brad Holmes say that, my thought was, I don't know where he would have thought if you just asked Brad Holmes, gave him some truth serum, and said, okay, where did you think he was going to go? To me, it was Chicago all the way, because so much of your success hinges on your quarterback. And say what you will about Caleb Williams, I believe the talent's there. If Ben Johnson feels like he can channel it, I think that's the move. I don't think Ben Johnson said, I want to go, I just want to stay in this division. I think he would have preferred to get the hell away from having to play Dan Campbell. But I think he looked at Caleb and the rest of the talent on the roster. Seems like a pretty good situation to go to if you're a coach, believing that you can go in and establish a culture and have success. But we'll see. There's pressure on Caleb Williams and Ben Johnson and Chicago this year. But I wonder where Brad Holmes really thought, okay, if not Chicago, where did you think he was going to go?
Well, let me try to bring in my Twitter here, because there's a couple of things that I posted about old Caleb.
You had some good interactions with Kirby. I saw.
Oh yeah. Kirby was being Kirby. I was telling. So there's a lot of haters. This one dude named Tim A, that just been dousing Kirby with hate. And I told Kirby, dude, stop feeding into the haters, man. Just highlight the people that love you. And I don't know if he took it the wrong way, but he said, yeah, just, scroll down or whatever, and you see where I've been interacting with, Lions fans or whatever he said. But
yeah.
And I told him, look, I'm not trying to be mean or negative about it. I'm just saying, like, you've got a lot of people that love what you do, man. Don't worry about this dude at all.
Yeah.
Like, if you want to send autograph stuff, don't send it to that dude. All right. There's many other people that would love to benefit from that in Detroit, and he does a great job. Like, Kirby is, dude's superhuman at everything he does, man. It's a good dude. All right, Ben, Caleb Williams. So my question on this was, is his freaking head on backwards? Look at this. This picture just doesn't look right. Does his head not look like it's on backwards? I don't think you're in this scene for some reason.
No, I'm trying to get it pulled up here.
I can hear you now.
Yeah.
So, and then he says, the nails are clean, the lips are pink, your girl will love them. That was a Caleb Williams quote. Like, what are you talking about? Because then it came out later that Caleb Williams said that he wasn't even into girls. And look, to each his own, but he said he wasn't even into girls at all in high school. And I just thought that was kind of weird that came out. Like, what is he talking about?
Yeah, there was some quote about, like, he was like, no, I got to go study or something like that. But the weird thing is with me, especially in today's day and age, I never know if I'm reading a quote like that. I'm like, is this real? Is somebody just making a GIF or a meme of some kind? But it's kind of it's tough because it's like, I never know. Like, even when Ben Johnson or when Caleb Williams was scammed or pranked, that Ben Johnson was texting him, I was like, he wouldn't have fallen for that. And then sure enough, the kids posted the video of it, FaceTiming him. Yeah. And
I don't think that Caleb is that bright. Like, I don't think that he has a ton of common sense. And this is why I'm not worried about Caleb Williams, is this guy right here. Just look at TA's feet, you know, his footwork.
Yeah,
And you know what I love about this? When you look at where is he at? Right? He's just in a regular old neighborhood. It doesn't look like he's in any, you know, multi-million-dollar homes. He's just in some backyard doing some work.
Yeah.
You know, just being TA, just staying in the moment. You know, life, you know, he's getting paid $20 million. Life is not too big for him. But look at that footwork, man. Oh, wait a second. Did I just see him using the bar? Because I told TA when we were talking to him at the draft, I said we were going to send you hot mitts, hand mitts, so you can keep your hands in your pocket. You know.
Yeah.
So I think there's bar work coming up right here. Right here. Right after this one. And so, oh, there it is right there. Yep. So he's using bar work. I love it.
Interesting.
Yep. So that's to keep your hands together, and, you know, it practices your kind of like your stiff arm, I guess if you would call it, but it keeps your hands together, and that way he's not getting loose with his hands and being too touchy. My brain is dead this morning. There's another term for it, but
No, I got it. That footwork, man, is crazy. It's I don't know. Just with Terrion, I know I did a long video the other day on it, but you know, I'm confident in him in year 2. And
here, we'll catch up on a couple more. Here we go.
Yeah.
All right. So this is at Sam Laporta's wedding. Obviously, Jack Campbell, Brock Wright, beautiful group of people, man, in support of each other. Now this can't be Miles Frazier. Can't be, because that tattoo is so off center. But you know what? Maybe they made it that way, and I can't quite see what it says on the far left. Does it say BOMB something?
I can't see it. I can't make out what.
See, but I would have thought that the Frazier would have been perfectly aligned with the neck and then draped over the shoulders, but maybe not.
Like a nameplate.
Yeah, maybe not. I don't know.
You got the Kirby tweets out there. I don't know. It seems like maybe you're on your timeline there.
Yeah, I'm just going through mine. No, I didn't go through the Kirby tweets, but here we got one more. You're plugged in this morning, right?
You know what? I am not. Let me grab that real quick. My bad.
Yeah. So here's Ahmed Hassanin. He was going home back to Bronco country, visiting Paddles Up Pokey. Obviously, if you don't know what pokey is, it's a tuna dish, raw tuna, great stuff. Probably one of my favorite dishes in the world. Love it, love it, love it. But man, Ahmed is looking thick. I can't wait to see him on the field. All right, what's up next? It's 9:30 in the morning. Let's get a few more in.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's see. Peter Schrager named who he believes is the most important player in the NFC. Now, the first time I read this, I thought, for whatever reason, my eyes played a trick on me. My brain played a trick on me. I thought it said the most important player in the NFC North. No, he's talking about the whole NFC. So he says, Peter Schrager says, I think Jared Goff is the single most important player in the NFC this season. There's been a raid of his coaching staff from the last several years, 6 different coaches gone, including Ben Johnson. And now you're telling me that Frank Ragnow, his longtime center, in addition to other members of the offensive line, are no longer there as well. For Goff being able to handle the roster turnover and coaching departures is crucial, obviously, to Detroit being able to put behind a surprising playoff exit and have another shot at the Super Bowl in 2025. I don't know that the playoff exit was that surprising, at least in that, I don't think that I didn't expect them to lose to Washington, but they were obviously a skeleton crew at that point. But Peter Schrager says, I think Jared Goff has had an amazing career arc. As we know, it went from success right away with McVay, then to be discarded, then to show that, no, I can still play in this game. Pro Bowls, the whole deal. Last year, they came up short in the playoffs, and now you're taking so many coaches from that team. Now you've got to say, hey, we're paying you big money, Jared Goff, and are we going to be the same team, or are we going to take a massive step back? Because if he is one of those top quarterbacks, they should still be the best team in the NFC North this year. Will, you've talked a lot about Jared Goff, know where you stand with him, but any thoughts that come to your mind with anything that Peter Schrager had said?
I didn't quite hear all of the quote. Did you write it down somewhere?
It is in that link here on that sheet. But
I thought that was a video.
I put two. I put a link to the video separately, but here I can send it to you real quickly.
Here,
while I'm doing that,
refresh the page. Maybe there's another link in there. I mean, I could just put it this way. If you're talking about the single most important player in the NFC this season, you're saying that Peter Schrager was saying that Jared Goff was that player?
Yeah, he thinks it's Goff. And, because he's talking about his career arc, he's, has immediate success, then he's discarded. We've gone over this many times, but it's just interesting to me when a renowned analyst comes out with something like, this is the most important player in the NFC. Not Stafford, not Jalen Hurts, not Saquon Barkley, not Jaden Daniels, he's talking about Jared Goff. And I think obviously a lot of that is the expectations of the team.
Yeah. So why is he the most important player? Well, I think he has a lot to prove this year that, on the cusp of Ben Johnson leaving to the Bears, what a lot of people are thinking is that Jared Goff has been created out of the mold of Ben Johnson's offense. And without Ben Johnson's offense, Jared Goff is not going to be Jared Goff of the last couple of seasons, right? I think that's what they're trying to say.
Exactly.
I don't believe that. I've said this a million times over that, again, Ben Johnson, smart dude, led the offense well, called the right plays at the right time, most of the time, just not against the Commanders and not in a few games where, hey, when the hot hand's working, it's working. Stick with a hot hand. But in this case, I don't think that Jared Goff is going to fall off one bit. He's familiar with Morton. The offense was created around Goff. Goff had a lot of responsibility and put a lot of touches on that offense. As we've heard even this year, Goff has had a lot of freedom inside the offense. So that's the biggest question. How much more freedom is he going to have now that Ben Johnson is gone and they're trying to transition to a new offensive coordinator? Is he the most important player in the NFC? I don't know if I would frame it that way. I would say that he's probably the single most important player for the Detroit Lions. And what I mean by that is, without Jared Goff, we don't have another quarterback, in my opinion, that is going to be able to do squat. I don't think that Hendon Hooker is ready at all. And I think that Jared Goff is the one that keeps this offense moving forward. His pre-snap, either adjustments or recognition of the defense and being able to read the defense is probably some of the best in the league. He is able to decipher what that defense is about to do. And then it's the post-snap reads that Jared Goff is driving through. I mean, it is 1, 2, 3 balls out, or it's 1, 2 back to 1 balls out. Whatever the option routes are, the hot routes. I think that Jared Goff recognizes quickly where that ball needs to go. That is why he is highly accurate. I think that's why you saw 7,000 yards of offense last year and 6,500 yards the year before is because of Jared Goff. And obviously it has something to do with the weapons around him. I think that there's some really good football players around him. And without them or without Goff, without either one, the offense isn't going to do anything. So I think he's the most important player to the Lions simply because they don't have another quarterback that can do what he does. And it's always been my opinion that he's been a top 5 quarterback. The stats would say that since he's been in Detroit. His postseason record would say that since he's been in Detroit and since he's been in the NFL. I could care less what happened with the Rams. I think that Sean McVay, as I've said before, utilized Jared Goff as a scapegoat. I didn't win a Super Bowl. It was his fault, but he wanted to blame Jared Goff. Yeah, it was a bad game. They couldn't score. But who was responsible for calling the plays? Sean McVay, right? He's the one that was responsible. And then you bring in a guy like Matthew Stafford, in my opinion, probably one of the smartest guys behind center, just like Jared Goff. Very, very, very sharp dude. I think he was smarter than Sean McVay. And I think that he helped accentuate Sean McVay. I don't think it was the other way around. I think that what Stafford brought to that offense far outweighed what Sean McVay was able to do. And it just worked, right? I think it finally just clicked. They also added some pieces that year. So I don't think it was Jared Goff's fault. And I'm not saying that Jared Goff couldn't accentuate what Sean McVay was doing, but there's a big difference in experience here. Jared Goff is young. Stafford's been around, what, 16 seasons now? Something like that. He's been around a long time.
He came in 2009, yeah.
Yeah, so to be 16 seasons. And at the time that he won a Super Bowl, it was, what, more than a dozen seasons or more than 11 seasons. Jared Goff was in his, what, second or third season going to the Super Bowl? That's unheard of. So his first full season going to the playoffs and then the Super Bowl, I mean, it's just insane to think that he was then cast away. I don't think that for any reason other than being the most important player for the Lions this season that Jared Goff should be mentioned here. I don't really understand what Peter Strager is trying to say. I really don't.
Yeah, it's all just framing. I mean, conversation. I mean, you could make a compelling argument. I could say Jalen Hurts is the most important player in the NFC. Stafford is. Jaden Daniels is. I mean, the quarterbacks of all these teams. I think it's just obvious because the Lions had such a successful season that just fell short. And then again, it's all the consternation. But there's got to be some storylines going into every year. And this year for the Lions, at least one of those is, you know, kind of the same thing we heard. Well, Goff's nothing without McVay. Well, he's proven that he is. He's proven that he's there's a ton to Jared Goff. And he's only getting, I feel like I guess that's a question for the chat. Is Goff going to have the best season of his career this coming season? Be tough to top what he did last year, but there's no reason to think he can, right?
Is he going to have a better year than he did last year? That was a question?
Yeah.
I don't think so. I don't think he needs to. I think what he did last year was enough. I think that we're going to have a little bit more of a balanced offense. And I think that, I mean, it's hard to say that you can do more on the ground, you know, when you had over 20 TDs on the ground. I still feel like the Lions are going to try to run the ball a little bit more this year, which takes a little bit away from Jared Goff. I also want to see him push the ball down into the end zone from the 30-yard line. I don't understand why they've gone away from this, you know, throw into the back of the end zone. Maybe it's because we just haven't had the personnel. And I've been saying that for years too, that if you don't have the 6'4" guys, how can you go to the end zone from beyond the red zone? It's tough, right? You need some guys that can leap. You need some guys that are tall with big wingspan that can go up and get the football. And without having them on the roster, you don't have those options. I'm not saying that Amon-Ra St. Brown can't make a play, but he would have to be open. And I think that now you utilize the speed of Jameson, utilize the height of Tim Patrick and Isaac Tesla. Well, Isaac Tesla also has some decent speed. You get those guys on the outside. You slam Amon-Ra in the middle in the slot. You throw Gibbs out of the backfield. And there's hardly anyone that's going to be able to stop that. Go downfield. And I don't want to hear this crap about Jared Goff can't throw downfield. He damn near led the league last year in explosives and balls over 30 and 40 yards. So he can do it. It's more of a maturity thing on the receiver and a development and chemistry thing for the pair to be able to do things in a game. And I think that we're going to see probably the best season out of J-Mo yet, assuming that he does make that leap. I think he should. And we'll probably see a lot more explosive plays out of him and J-Mo, but over 7,000 yards, I don't think that's going to happen. I'm not saying I don't want it to. I just don't think it's going to be needed. I think that there's going to be some pretty tough, grinded out games this year. And we're going to see the Lions need to exercise execution with precision beyond anything else.
Well, that leads right into another one of these topics here. Now, before we started going this morning, we were, before we hit record and went live, talking about the topic of a Jameson Williams extension. I think the news now is a few days old, but Will, I'm just going to kind of turn it right back to you. Your thoughts on, is this real? Is J-Mo getting an extension anytime soon? What are your thoughts? What are your feelings? What are you hearing? What are you thinking?
Okay, so let's do this, though. What is the article saying?
So the article, this was Jeff Risdon from Detroit Lions podcast. So he was doing a show last week. He says JMO's contract is getting done sooner than later. Very, very, very extraordinarily confident in that. And that quickly broke the news cycle. You know, Risdon saying that he is very, very, very extraordinarily confident that JMO will be getting extended sooner rather than later.
Okay. So now that I understand the framework, I think I commented on this last week. No, it's not. It's not happening. And here's why. Why would you pick up the 5th year? Oh, they had to pick up the 5th year option no matter what, right? They had to. They didn't have a choice, because if you don't, then you have to do a contract extension. With Frank Ragnow gone, the Lions do save some money. But what is Jameson Williams going to be willing to accept? And I don't have anything prepared in front of me to dive into numbers like this, but I think if we redo this topic, we need to have, top 5, top 10 contracts all laid out, averages, more information, so that we can kind of go through it. How much is this contract going to be worth? Is he worth $30 million a year? No, not even close. Is he worth 25? Nope, not even close. But what is JMO going to argue for? Because his agent's going to say, well, there's not another guy faster. There's not another guy more talented, right? He's got good, height, weight, speed, great speed. Doesn't really drop a ton of footballs. But then there's the other side of that argument to say you were highly immature your first year. You suffered between suspensions just about every year, and outside of his first season. So when you're available to play, you weren't available to play. I think that the maturity needs to be there. And I think that is the only thing that is going to restrict the Lions outside of capital, that is going to restrict the Lions from giving him a contract today, right now, this year, before week 1. If it doesn't happen before week 1, it's not happening. The Lions have rarely ever done a contract midseason. And if they did, it's because the conversation was happening well before that. And it was just tidying up a little bit of nuts and bolts to make it happen. I think Aleem McNeil was done. If I'm not mistaken. Wasn't he done during the season?
Yeah, it was.
Last year?
Because it was actually right after Hutch got hurt. It was like, that seems to me like a statement that they were making, that they said, okay, all right, we're extending you. But yeah, certainly that conversation didn't just come up the night before and say, hey, Aleem, you want to do a deal? You're right. It's in the works for a long time.
Okay, so let me walk down Aleem real quick, and then I'll bounce back to JMO.
Sure.
I personally feel that was an oh shit moment. We just lost Aiden. You better go lock up Aleem right now.
Okay.
At the number that was already agreed upon or close to being agreed upon. Because now that Aiden's out and Aleem goes and has a crazy year, that number's going up. So that was probably the oh shit moment. Like, we got to go get it done now. Yes, we want Aleem in house, but we don't want him in the house at 8 million. We need it where it is now. But with Aiden hurt, no one expected that Aleem was going to follow him, right? No one expected that. That Aleem was going to get hurt.
Yeah, if you feel like Hutch didn't get hurt, would Aleem have gotten that extension?
Yes, just not. I don't think it would have happened at that moment.
At that time. Okay.
Yeah, that's just my thoughts. I still think he would have been done no matter what. Obviously. Okay, so now back to JMO. Let's just do this live. We'll make it the last topic of the day. Let me pull up some contracts here. So normally when we do a topic, we try to get all the background.
Yeah, this is I'm kind of putting Will in a spot here, just asking point blank. But JMO is one of these guys that I talk to a lot of Lions fans. Seems to be one of the unanimous favorite players for a lot of people. It just comes down to what is he going to get paid? What are they going to extend him, and how much for?
Okay, so this is what you're looking at. I can make this look a little bit bigger, or a little bit better at least. Let's try to widen this out so we can see a little bit more.
Michael Garrity says JMO $22 million a year for 4 years. That's what his prediction is.
22 million a year
For 4 years. Yep.
Oof. I wouldn't say that's a bad guess, but let's see where I come up with. Okay, while I'm doing this part of it, Riley, how about you look up stats for JMO?
Okay.
And then pull up all the stats for all wide receivers of last year. You should be able to pull that up on PFF by player position, just by position. Okay. All right. So when we look at the top down, obviously the elite of the elite contracts was just signed this year by Jamar Chase, $40 million a year, 40.25. Justin Jefferson, I believe, was done last year, $35 million a year. CD Lamb was done last year at 34. DK Metcalf was done this year, I believe, after the trade, if I'm not mistaken. Or maybe that was done last year. Can't remember. AJ Brown was literally done like hours after or like the next day of Amon-Ra St. Brown. Amon-Ra St. Brown is the sixth highest paid wide receiver at just over $30 million APY, okay, average per year. We'll forget about Tyreek Hill. Brandon Ayuk was grossly overpaid. T. Higgins, here's your comparison, okay? If you're going to have Jamar Chase and T. Higgins on the same team making collectively $69 million a year, and for all of you crying about having an extra defensive end making $30+ million a year, this is the situation that you would be in, is that the Bengals cannot pay Trey Hendrickson right now because they're paying $69 million on average per year to two receivers. So you can just flip-flop the positions. That means that if they did that, they wouldn't be able to pay JMO. They wouldn't be able to pay Gibbs, right? You'd lose somebody or two people for sure, two players. So we'll use this as, I guess, as the model. So if Amon-Ra St. Brown's making 30 and he's a top 5 wide receiver in the league, do you have stats up by chance?
I do, yep.
All right, so where is Amon-Ra St. Brown? You can whittle it down usually by touching the top of the screen and organizing each column by, the leader. So where was Amon-Ra St. Brown in yards last year?
So here, give me 1 second to do yards. They have him fourth by, I don't know if that's just default, but it looks like.
You have to whittle it down, you know what I mean?
Yeah, so
you have to organize it by each row.
Yeah, Amon-Ra was third in yards.
Okay, how many yards did he have?
1,400.
How many yards did Jameson have?
Jameson Williams.
Like just over 1,000. So where was he ranked?
Yep. 22nd.
Okay. So third and 22nd. How about Jamar Chase and T. Higgins?
Jamar Chase was number 1. He had 1,708 yards.
Okay.
And then T. Higgins was 32. He had 911 yards.
Okay, so that's almost the perfect comparison, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the difference here between, this is just how I kind of do stuff, just to kind of find, some unique averages or to at least make a case. If T. Higgins is making 28.75 on average, and Jamar Chase is making 40.250 on average, that is a difference of 28.6%. Okay, so 28.6%. Amon-Ra St. Brown is making $30 million. So Michael Garrity was almost spot on with the number that I would have come up with. That would put Jameson at 21.420. So we'll call it 21.5 million. If you were to look at this by the law of averages, okay, if you're going to have two players on the same team relatively doing the same as far as yards, T. Higgins had just around 1,000. Jamar Chase led the league. Amon-Ra St. Brown was third. Jameson Williams was what, 22nd?
Yes, 22nd.
And T. Higgins was 32nd or something like that, right?
Correct.
All right, go to TDs.
Okay, got it pulled up.
All right, walk me down between Jamar and T, and then Amon-Ra and J-Mo.
So Jamar Chase had 17 touchdowns, led the league. T. Higgins had 10. He was 6th in the league. So
I'm sorry, one more time. Chase was
17.
okay. He had
T.
17 TDs.
Yeah, he had an amazing season, and they didn't even make the playoffs. Yeah. And T. Higgins had 10 touchdowns.
All right, now what's the difference between Amon-Ra and J-Mo? And we're keeping this in mind, too, that, you've got 4 guys that are, going to do 1,000 yards a year, and you got 4 guys that could do 10 TDs a year. That's a big difference between the Bengals only having 2 guys that can do that.
Correct. Yep. And then Amon-Ra had 12 touchdowns last season. J-Mo had 7.
Okay. So that's enough for me. I'm just kind of looking down here at the list. Where do you put J-Mo on this list, right? Where do you put him above when you start talking about these receivers? Is he better than Jalen Waddle? Is he better? Is he better than DJ Moore? Is he better than Devonta Smith? I would say no, not right now. Is he better than Nico Collins? I would say probably not right now. Is he better than Deebo Samuel? Absolutely. But again, Deebo Samuel does things a little bit differently. I think Deebo's probably a little bit older, going to lose a step. Michael Pittman, yeah, he's definitely better than Michael Pittman. Terry McLaurin, that's a tough argument, but I would say we're starting to get close. I think we're starting because Terry McLaurin is also known as a speed guy. How about Calvin Ridley, also known as a speed guy? Devonta Adams, I think that he was just way overpaid at one point. Chris Godwin, another guy that was kind of known for speed at one time. Stephon Diggs, I think he got overpaid at his time. Mike Evans, no comparison. Mike Evans is grossly underpaid for what he's done in the league.
No question.
But he's definitely better than Christian Kirk. He's better than Jerry Jeudy. Cooper Kupp, again, overpaid for where he was. But I think that this is kind of where you are when you start talking about J-Mo. I think that he's better than Christian Kirk, so that's above $18 million. You can't compare him to Mike Evans because, again, he's underpaid for what he does in the league. Stephon Diggs and Chris Godwin, Calvin Ridley, and Terry McLaurin, I think that this is kind of where you're looking for comparisons. Now you'd have to really go deep into comparing all the yards, right? All of the other little metrics and stats. And then it's the future. What is the future for Jameson Williams? Where does he slot? And then you also have to look at your team. Okay, so who on the team, or I'm sorry, excuse me, you have to look at the team and analyze it from this perspective. If you were to lose Jameson right now, what would happen to your team? You have 3 other legit guys on this squad that can pull 1,000 yards and 10 TDs. Amon-Ra St. Brown, Sam Laporta, Jahmyr Gibbs. Without a doubt, can get 1,000 yards and 10 TDs. Without a doubt. Gibbs could probably do 15 or more, and probably 15 or more. Laporta can definitely do 1,000. He was almost there his rookie year, and definitely can get 10 TDs, which I think didn't he do 10 TDs his first season? I think he did.
Yep. So.
Amon-Ra St. Brown, we know if he's not getting close to 1,500 yards a season, it's because of the fact that you have so many weapons on the team that the ball's being spread out. And I think that that's the problem for J-Mo in these contract negotiations, which is to say, look, we have 3 or 4 other guys that can make up for the loss. Doesn't mean we can make up for the speed. It doesn't mean that we can't, we can make up for the uniqueness that he presents.
Yeah, the element he brings to the
right.
offense.
You can't make, but you can make up the yards. You can make up the scores. So as long as you can score, it doesn't matter if you're on the team. Now I'm saying this loosely, okay? We're just having an open conversation that if you were to, if you were an agent to tell J-Mo this, look, they've got 3-4 guys that can make up the difference. It's just shifting the ball to somebody else now because you're not there. And they can go find a speedy guy in the draft. They're there every year. That if you need someone to break the top off a defense, hey, you're just going to run, a post route. See ya. Bye. You're just going to run deep on every play to pull the defense away from what's happening over here on the other side. That's essentially what JMO does. However, JMO does present some ability. The question is the maturity. So I think that if you're looking at signing Jameson Williams right now, it is probably in that $20 to $22 million range, which if it's a 3-year deal, you're talking probably $65 million over 3. And I don't know what the guarantees are here. Let me look at the guarantees. So the guarantees for Chase looks to be about 60%. Yeah, 67% for Chase. Higgins. Wow, so Higgins got a really low guarantee. And see, that's the other thing. Yeah, his guarantee was only 35%.
Interesting.
Yeah. So, and again, that's what you have to do to your second guy that's going to make a boatload of money that you can walk away from and say, yeah, sure, you know what? We'll sign you to a 4-year, $85 million deal. No problem. But you're only going to get 30 of that guaranteed. You know, would he sign it? That means he's got to work for it.
Yeah.
You have to, for the proof is in what your work is.
Mm-hmm.
If you screw around and you get suspended again, we're not paying you. That's going to be in the contract. If you don't show up for practice, we're not paying you. That's going to be in the contract. But JMO does seem to work his butt off, at least in practice. I don't know what he's doing outside of practice. You know, like Amon-Ra St. Brown catching 202 a day. And this is not JMO hate conversation, but I will just tell you, I don't think that there's enough money in the kitty unless it has a low guarantee. Because the guarantee is what's on the books. Right? The guarantee is what matters most. The signing bonus, you know, is on the books. And then you can, you know, kick the can down. Do I think a deal could get done? Sure. But is it happening this year? No, it's not. You wouldn't have a 5th-year option already agreed upon and then sign a contract this year. So, look, Jeff Risden, I can say that that's his opinion. There's zero fact in there. That's just an opinion. Just like mine right now is an opinion where I'm saying it's not going to happen this year. I'm extraordinarily very, 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 very confident that it's not going to happen this year. It's just an opinion. It's just what it is. But now I broke it down a little bit as to why it won't happen. Because if you're going to sign him to a deal this year, if it's a true extension, money doesn't matter this year. It doesn't change. The signing bonus would affect this year a little bit. But then you're talking next year, man. What did I say in the very beginning of this offseason? If you pick up the 5th-year option on Aiden and JMO, the Lions are in trouble for next year. If you guys don't remember, I did an entire show about that. I did the entire contract with you guys. We went through it all. And maybe we'll do that again. I'll do it on Thursday night. We'll pick up this conversation on Thursday night, and we'll break it down on SpoTrack or Over the Cap. We have the premium version of those where we can mess with the contracts and do what the GM does, right? Well, we can play GM, just like we play in the sandbox as kids. So, all right, Riley, what's your final 30 of the day?
Yeah, no, I love that, man. That was me banking on, like, okay, all I got to do is throw Will a lob pass here, he'll take and do something with it. But yeah, I mean, very interesting to see. I can't wait to see how this roster roulette plays out. That's like at the forefront of my mind every day now. And just tip of the hat to everybody for being here with us today. And then let's see. So the interview you're doing later today, Will, we should be expecting that to hear or.
I don't know when it's going to air. It's going to be recorded. It won't be live.
Okay.
But that's why I'm telling you guys to go to his channel, which is he still in the chat?
Let's see. I should have wrote it down, but that's awesome. Is his a football related show?
No, I think he's a gamer. But
it was
he has cerebral palsy.
Mm-hmm.
And he's doing a wonderful job on everything, that he does in life. And I was reached out to by another content creator that this gentleman would like to do an interview and talk about the channel, talk about the Lions. I think he's a Lions fan. I'm not too sure. I'll find out more today, just like, everybody will hear when it drops. But Shoot, man, I just lost the. I had it open, but let me see if I can get it again.
Yeah, I just threw his tag in there, Cerebral Palsy Gamer, and Brandy Coffee says he streams NFL games as well. So
there we go.
Football talk in there for sure. Yeah, but that's awesome. Awesome.
Yeah, I love it. I can't wait to have good conversation with him. So do us a favor, and this is where I'm trying to get to. I'm trying to get this open so I can get his
channel name or something.
Yeah, I want to get the link.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so there's Q&A. Here it is. So he's pushing 2,000 subscribers. Do us a favor, and I just subscribed. Make sure you guys check him out. Looks like he's a Packers fan, which is all good. We're gonna go into the territory, right? We're gonna have some fun with it.
Absolutely, man.
All right, so I'm gonna drop it in the chat. Please subscribe to this channel. Give him your love, and then you'll see the interview at some point when it drops. And then if you guys want training camp tickets, obviously you can try to get them on your own. But if you want to participate, become a member, you only have until July 14th to become a member. And then it's locked in. Everyone that's a member before then will be in the running. Make sure that you can go to the practices. So when I have tickets to each practice, that's kind of how I'm going to lay them out. If you want to be entered into the drawing for that practice, you just got to let me know. And that way we'll give everybody an opportunity to do it. I'll probably just do all of the drawings live. You know, we'll just do a members only, and then who's ever in will have the chance, you know, to win. I'll schedule it in advance so that you guys know when it's going to happen. I'll probably do it on the 16th or the 17th. So we have plenty of time, you know, for you guys to make plans. My final 30 of the day is, why haven't you subscribed to this channel yet? I would love to know. Mailbag@rockdown.com. When you guys join, if you simply just like the stream, it helps us with the algorithm. Commenting helps us with the algorithm. Get into the comments after you leave the live show. Ask questions, post statements, whatever you want to do. Have a debate. Whatever it is that I'm talking about, Riley's talking about, or Eric's talking about, or Corey, whomever's on, post it in the comments. Have a conversation with us. We'll pick it up, you know, into the comments after the show. But that helps us get back into the algorithm. When I do videos now, the most important thing you guys can do is get those notifications turned on. You'll know when we go live. You'll also know when a video drops. But you only get 3 notifications a day. That's it. So it's not a bunch of spam. You're only going to get 3 notifications. But that helps us. That way you can get into the video first. And that way you can participate with it first and get it to more Lions fans. It's going to take us about 3 or 4 weeks to get the algorithm back. And since it changed, I just needed to stay up with videos. I just have too much going on in life with everything else I got going on to do a bunch of videos when it's not season. So once we get into the season, we'll be doing a bunch more. But I'll pick it up for you guys. Anything else for you, Riley?
I think that's it. It's everybody go have a great Wednesday and go Lions.
All right, y'all. Take care. Go One Pride. Go Detroit Lions. We'll catch you Friday for the morning show. Thursday will be the Off the Cuff is back. Tuesdays and Thursday nights. Rise and Grind morning shows is Monday, Wednesday, Friday right now until training camp or just before training camp, and then we'll kick it back into high gear. But got a lot of stuff to do. I need to take a little bit of my time back for right now. So we'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.